All right, welcome to another edition of my Checka. I'm with my guy, man. This is a special one, man. This is my friend. Like this is like my real homie. So this is gonna be dope. Another St. Louis River High graduate. I mean, like I said, this just adds on more to how dope our high school was, and in so many different ways. I mean, the brother went from being a helicopter pilot, officer, captain in the military to matriculating all the way through Anheuser-Busch, from being just a plant manager guy, the guy that just is like, hey, count the bottles, all the way up now to being the diversity and inclusion coordinator not in coordinator, like vice president, direct. I don't even, you just have
head of diversity inclusion.
There you go. I mean, it's like 5 other people that's like above him in the whole company. Like that's it. Like the buck is a great Harry Truman says, the buck stops here. The buck stops 5 more people before John, but it's great to be 5 more before the buck stop and to be ahead of that.
Yeah, it's been a journey, man.
Man, dude, I'm glad for you to come on, man. This is a treat for me, man. In so many ways. But let's jump right in. What your background? Where you from? Like where you are? I mean, people in general, they see that I'm the diversity, the head of this.
Yeah.
He's
crazy?
From Chesterfield. He's from Rockwood Summit High School or something along those lines. Like, give the background of where you from and where you.
Yeah. So here's my story.
And keep in mind, I'm keeping your product branding going well already. I started my happy hour.
Appreciate it. I need that stock, man. I need that stock. But yeah, I think a lot of people assume just because of, executive in the company, where I live at and everything like that, like they assume that, oh, he must have had a little spoon in his mouth along the way, or, a golden ticket, so to speak. But no, man, I'm a Northside guy. I grew up on the North Side. If you know the city, you know Shreve and Carter. I literally grew up in that neighborhood, the Penrose neighborhood. Lived there basically my whole life. My story's not too unfamiliar to most people. I was raised by my grandparents, which was a blessing and a curse. A little more strict.
I know. My grandma raised me. You already know.
Man, more strict on one side, but then on the other side, they gave you life lessons and perspectives that I probably couldn't have got if I live with my mom full time. So that's kind of where I lived and I grew up. Like you said, man, I went to SLU. I actually wanted to go to Cardinal Ritter. Like that's where all my.
That's where everybody kind of wanted to go.
That's where everybody wanted to go.
Let's even go back farther though, man. Like because you went to St. Engelbert, which is
Engelbert,
like,
yeah.
So that's like, and people, that's an old school thing, the neighborhood Catholic school that doesn't exist anymore. Where you just go to if you didn't go to a public school,
it's a focus school now. Like it's like combined neighborhoods, right?
So is St. Engelbert still open?
So now it's called like the St. Louis Academy. I think it went to like first was like St. Elizabeth School or something like that, and then it got changed to St. Louis Focus Academy. But it was like 3 or 4 different schools in the city that like merged. Like it was like a Bishop Healy got merged,
Bishop Healy,
Kings Highway. That kind of stuff. So a bunch of them got merged together.
What's so funny is that the only Catholic school on the north side now?
Man, I don't know.
Because what's so funny is I was talking to Teddy, I meet your best friend. We were tripping off that Aquinas closed in Trinity. There's no high schools north of 40 anymore that are Catholic, besides Cardinal Ritter. Cardinal Ritter is the only school that is the only high school period north of let's say Martin Luther King high school wise.
Yeah.
So you got to think back in the day we had Rosary, Aquinas. You got to think we had Rosary, Aquinas, all these different places out like more north. No more. That's gone now, man. So you got the idea that that's still. I don't even think there is no other north side Catholic schools. I mean, Corpus Christi's gone. You got to think about all those. Other thing, those schools that we grew up in. Ascension's gone.
Yeah. So that I was basically a product of that kind of environment, and then like I said, I wanted to go to Cardinal Ritter because that's where everybody else went, and my grandfather was kind of pushing. He was really important in my life, but he was he was like, I think you gotta know how to, and I'll just be frank, like you gotta learn how to interact with white people. And right now you've been around majority Black people, and you know the culture, you know how to influence them and things like that. But when you get into the corporate environment, at some point you're gonna have to cross over and be able to interact with them. He was like, I think you need to develop those skills at an early age. So I went to SLU, which is its own, man, it's I know for sure it was like less than 10 minorities, that went to the school, but now having to navigate through, man, I wrote a paper, I swear to God, it was great. And then somehow I get like a C or a D on it. And I'm like, man. And then, talking to my grandpa, and he looked at it, right? Because I was doing the day where like, your grandparents marked up your paper before the teacher marked up your paper.
On me, I didn't have no computer or nothing. I have to write my paper early, and then give it to my aunt to go type at work for me, and then bring it back to me. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I remember, I remember that whole, kind of scene, but it was like, I got exposed to like, here's what it feels like to not be fair. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not fair. And then I started networking. I was like, hey man, what'd you put on your paper? What did you put in there? Going to teachers and saying, taking a high road and say, like, I really appreciate, your feedback and things like that. Like, what would have made this better? And like, look at a corporate environment, like that's how you do that all the time, right? Yeah. You gotta understand like what will make my stakeholder take my idea, essentially what I was doing in high school, right? So did that whole jam, and then
no. I want to stay there for a second, man. I want to stay there for a second because you my boy, so we got stories. You know what I'm saying? So this, because people would be like, hold on, man, y'all boys, y'all went to high school together. Like, how you ain't gonna tell? So I'm gonna go back. John Shipp was a cornerback for our high school squad, and I'll never forget. I was like a part of the team, but not on the team. Like I was like in the crowd facilitating with Black people. Like I was like, look here, all the Black people doing this. I'm like, yo, watch out for my boy right here.
I was like, y'all about to see his show.
So we played at the Dome against Hazelwood East, and John Shipp has been put on Reggie Germany. Reggie Germany may not mean anything to a lot of people out here now. But this brother ended up going to Ohio State and then played NFL for like 3 or 4 years. This is high school, folks. This is so you got to think this guy was Ohio State. You can look him up. He's got online stuff. Mm-hmm. So you can still look it up. And John was on him, and he proceeds to get worked for a whole game. And he did.
Let me tell you what my actual strategy was. Like after the first play, I was like, okay, this dude's definitely a step above me. Now I was pretty fast in high school.
Yeah, so you ran a speed with him, but it was
I ran a 4.3. Like I ran a 4.3. So in high school,
wasn't he like 6'3" or 6'4" though too?
On paper he was 6'2".
Okay.
6'2". You wear the cleats, 6'3", whatever. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like after the first and second play, they didn't even throw it to him. But I was like, yo, this dude got a different breakaway speed. So my strategy at first was I'm just gonna jam him, right? I'm just gonna like hit him, bruise him. I'm gonna make it so your quad muscles hurt, so you ain't gonna be able to run fast. And the dude was juking me like within 5 yards. Like you think about,
you couldn't get the jammer. You couldn't even jam.
I couldn't get the jamming because he juked me in the first 5 yards. So the whole game, man, I was just it was kind of embarrassing, but I was just like the whole game. I was just like, let me just make contact with this person, try to throw them off their route, so they don't get a touchdown every play. Like if
I gotta take a flag, I'm taking a flag.
That's a success. But yeah, that was tough, man.
And then even with the punt return, which was hilarious, the whole situation.
Oh man,
this is all like so actually, like. Go ahead. You can explain.
Here's what actually happened, man. So again, like in practice, could nobody at SLU hang with me on a punt returns, right? Nobody, right? I was just faster. And then I remember getting ready to go out there. I had like practice this little dance thing.
And people don't understand. No, we're the black kids. But this is the thing, though, John. People understand we're the black kids. It's maybe only 30 of us in the whole school. We're playing an all black school, so we like anytime we play any sport, we get up for that. Like, okay, I'm gonna shut. This ain't playing St. Mary's. This is playing Hazelwood East. This is it's girls out here. It's on. So you already like, oh, I'm gonna show out.
Yeah, so I went out there with this like little swagger thing, and then right when the guy was about to kick off, the ref yells at me, "Yo, chin strap loose." So I'm like fiddling with my chin strap, and I'm like trying to do this after the ball's in the air, and like a half a second, I lost the ball. So I'm like, where the ball at? And next thing I know, the ball is like above my head. I'm like, oh, snaps. So I'm like running backwards, trying to get the ball. It just was a disaster. So the next time, so that when ball goes out of bounds, coach yelling at me, whatever. The next play, I was like, I'm not gonna let the ball get over my head. So I scoot way back, like way up. I was almost in the end zone, and the dude like squib kicked it. And like the ball bounces like 20 yards in front of me. So I'm like running, trying to get it, bounces way up my head. Coach ended up pulling me out. He's like, you ain't ever returning. I actually didn't return punts or kickoffs for like 6 or 7 games after that. He was so mad at me, even though I was like clearly the fastest guy on the team, right? Like he was like, no, I ain't, you're not doing that again. I think the first time I got to do a punt or kickoff return was against Chaminade, right? And I had it was a nice little record for a second, but man, there's some classes behind me, man. They was like getting like 102-yard returns.
Like rest in peace to
canceled mine out.
Yeah, rest in peace to Willard, man. He tied Mr. Clark's record for that 99-yard kickoff return.
Yeah. And
the whole thing of Mr. Clark, he said I ran up there to make sure that he didn't break my record.
Right.
he's like I didn't care about the game. I don't want to see if my record was broke.
Right. Yeah.
So man, so like you took that opportunity, and was football what fueled you even going to Missouri State? It was Missouri State now.
It was literally. So I had a bunch of like D3 school options, a couple D2, and then I had 2 Division I options that were going to pay for it. Like I was getting like offers to walk on at a bunch of schools.
Of course.
But as far as like schools to actually pay for school, I had Iowa State and I had Missouri State. Now they like totally played me. So go to Iowa State, pretty clear. They're like, you're gonna do special teams. That's what we want to bring you in. Maybe by the time you're a senior, you'll get some clock in some other positions. But for immediate future, special teams, like you fast, you quick, like that's what we want you for. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm good at other stuff. Like you see my tape, and then they're like, yeah, we got somebody for that. This your role. And then Missouri State, I went there, and now that I know this, like you're not supposed to go certain times a year. I didn't know none of that. I went there, and it was a blast. Like I was like, yo, this is phenomenal. I want to go. Like all these people at this game. Like the stadium was full. It was like, I can't remember the exact week, but it was like essentially homecoming, right? That is like one of the only times that stadium is full. It was the weekend that I went.
So and that's how they do you on a recruiting trip.
Like, yo, man, this is dope. I'm going here. The coach was like, yeah, you think you'd be a starter first year, maybe red shirt, but definitely, be a starter here. We see you as a key equation. So it was all in my ear. Hindsight, I should have went to Iowa State.
And then we'd have been kicking it though.
I know, man. But of Cyclone. But I said I did Missouri State because of the school. They said like, hey, we'll give you a football scholarship, and then to supplement my room and board, I had to run track. So I did football, and then track I did during the spring, and then the track didn't last long. It was actually in practice. They were doing little drills where you go like, and then the next people go up to the line. So I was in the last heat of dudes, and then behind me was the first heat of females, and they blew the whistle, and I run. So I got like 3-second lead before the first heat of women. Michelle Baptiste is in the heat behind me.
You remember her name on the top of
Oh, dude. Dude, so we were supposed to be going 90%, right? And I'm like running, but I'm trying to like pretend that that I'm not running my hardest. I was actually running my hardest because I'm running like all the dudes from Barbados, right? Like I'm running my hardest, but I'm like trying to make my face look like I'm not. I'm like, I'm 100%, supposed to be 90, 100%. She caught me with like a 3-second lead. We were running 300s to practice for the 200. I ran a 200 and a 400. I had like a lead, and she said, on your left, which is what you say in Forest Park with somebody going around you. So I kind of like go like this, and I see her, threw off my entire cadence. So then it looked even worse because I couldn't ever catch back up to it. Yeah, so I quit that day. Yeah, that day. I went to the coach, I was like, nah. And it was also like I was trying to lose weight because in football they try to bulk you up, and in track they try to lean you out. And so I felt like I was starving anyway, but I was like, yo, if I just got hawked, there's no way that this is gonna work out long term. So I just stick with football. So yeah, that's the football was a means to get to the school. It wasn't like they had a degree program that I really loved, and that's why I went there. It was really just a means to an end.
So how does you transition from football, track to joining in the military and becoming a captain and becoming a helicopter pilot?
Crazy story, man. Like, so at the time I was doing pre-physical therapy / cellular and molecular biology. Like both of the programs were pretty close. So my degree is in cellular and molecular biology with a minor in chemistry, but like the physical therapy one is like literally parallel minus the anatomy and physiology course, right? So my grandfather was a physical therapist, so I like wanted to do that, but then I also was like, I kind of don't want to work with humans, you know, so stick me in a zoo or something like that. Like that's kind of also what I wanted to do. So I was taking that track, and then my grandfather didn't come to one of my football games, and I was like, oh, that's weird. We had a bye week, so I drove back home, and then when I showed up at the house, he had lost like 50, 60 pounds.
Wow. Like, and between the game he came to.
But it was probably like a month since I'd seen him, but it was like the first home one that I knew he probably could make. And he had lost like 50 some pounds probably. And so I went home, saw him, and he looked like real skinny. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He didn't want to tell me, but he had lung cancer. So he had prostate cancer first. They thought they got it. Then he got bone marrow cancer. They thought they got that, but then he ended up getting lung cancer. It's just cancer just sucks, right? Yeah. So he ended up getting lung cancer. So it was pretty fast. So from the time I found out to the time he actually died was maybe 2 months. And I just did not handle it well.
I didn't know it was that fast when your dad passed. I mean, granddad passed.
Yeah, man, it was super fast. I think he knew longer, but what I knew, it wasn't very long. And I just remember, him having one of the last conversations with me. He was like, you're gonna be the patriarch of the family. So I'm 20, and I'm like,
patriarch?
What? He's like, you're gonna be a patriarch of the family. Like I need you to be focused on making sure you can support your grandma, your mom, your sister. People are gonna look up to you. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to chase girls, and now you giving this all on top of me. So it was a little bit of I just was trying to process everything. I had skipped he died. I skipped a couple of practices. Like I said, I wasn't handling it right. And I showed back up to one of the practices after just being MIA. And coach was like, what you think you're doing? And I'm like, I'm going to practice. And he was like, if you walk out in a job, you're going to lose your job and get fired. He was like, I've talked to some people. I understand what's going on. He was like, well, part of my job is teach you life lessons. So pulling your scholarship for now. And assuming you put in the work and all that kind of stuff, then we'll reinstate it at the beginning of next semester. Well, I didn't really have an option to cover my costs, right? Yeah. So it was actually one of the first times I ever drank. I was always pretty outside of church, It was one of the first times I actually drank, and that I was watching one of the commercials. Man, it was like 100% tuition, see the world.
Oh, dang! You got caught up in the doggone.
It got me. I went to the recruiter at like 6 a.m.
That next morning?
That next morning. Yeah, the next morning, like 6 a.m., literally walking to the recruiter. And I'm like, give me whatever's going to give me 100% tuition. pay any student loans and give me a sign-on bonus. And they're like, are you okay? And I was like, I just need you to sign me up for whatever. Like, I'm not on a death mission, but I just need you to sign me up for whatever. And it was like, combat engineer? I was like, what's the money look like? It was like, we'll give you $10,000 sign-on bonus. I was like, sure. So literally signed up to be a conduit engineer, supposed to blow up stuff. And it didn't set in for maybe 2 weeks. I was like, yo, I just joined the Army. I'm like, yo, like this ain't no go backwards kind of deal. But yeah, it's no like I saw something on TV and was inspired to join because of ABC. No, I wasn't none of that. I got tipsy and walked in recruiter's office, and it was the best worst mistake I ever made. To be honest.
Why do you say it's the best worst?
Well, I think at that particular time, I was probably going to start spiraling because I was just I was caught up in the situation and not just locking it in and doing what I need to do. So I didn't go to boot camp until the end of that semester. And they did a program where, because they knew I was in college, they said, you take off a semester, you go to boot camp, AIT, whatever. And then since you got college credits, you can potentially become an officer. So that January, I left for boot camp. And in boot camp, you have no room to feel sorry for yourself. Like there's zero room to feel sorry for yourself. So I instantly got into the mode of, hey, I need to excel, which is kind of how I was wired anyway. I got in the mode of, hey, you need to excel. You put me in leadership positions. I think a little bit because physically I was pretty strong because I just got out of football, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't struggling like a lot of people to do push-ups, right? So physically I was strong. And then I think, I could call cadence. We used to rap, in the back car, going to mixers and stuff like that. Like, it came in handy, bro. I was like, I hear you calling. They was like, what? Call cadence. So yeah, man, that's how I got into the military. And
so you took off a semester? I didn't know you took off. I thought you did more ROTC.
No, so I literally took off a semester, did boot camp AIT. I was in the National Guard 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. The dude that was kind of my platoon sergeant, didn't get along with him at all. I was trying to tell him like, yo, man, you need to do it like this. You need to do it like this. Him and I started butting heads. And he was like, well, you as an officer, you can tell me what to do, but you ain't. So get out there and clean that toilet or go out there and dig that hole. And I was like, man, I remember going to the commanding officer and I was like, yo, how can I become an officer? And the whole reason was I wanted to tell him what to do. So he was like, you're supposed to.
So your whole thing right now is a comedy of errors. Like this a comedy like, yo, I just don't want.
Yeah, the reason wasn't like some great, it wasn't like oh my, that's so inspiring. No, it was very calculated, kind of a weird deal. But yeah, he got on my nerves, and I went to one of the officers and I was like, hey man, I want to go to this OCS thing so I can be an officer. He's like, they don't really take privates. You got to be in for a while, whatever. I was like, well, then get me out of the Army. And they're like, well, this is not the way it works. I was like, I'm pretty resolute. Either get me out of the Army or send me to officer school. They were so annoyed that I was telling them like, this is the options you have. They said, you know what? We're going to send you to officer school. When you fail, then you just going to go over here. And you know me, like failure is not an option in my book.
You wait
I went to OCS like right after that. And hardest 12 weeks of my life. And
was it physically or like why was that the hardest?
So physically, everywhere we went, we ran. Like you didn't walk anywhere. You had a 40-pound rucksack on your back at all times. When you did classes, standing up with a backpack on. I lost 40 pounds. It was actually 10 weeks. 40 pounds in 10 weeks. To go in the cafeteria, you had to do 10 pull-ups and 10 dips with a 40-pound rucksack. So like, if you got 5, they said, okay, Shipp got you down for 5, go to the back of the line. So you end up losing weight and all kinds of stuff, man. And so anyway, yeah, end up getting through that and became an officer and, finished out the school deal. And then
so officer training was harder physically than boot camp was?
Oh, yeah. And everybody that's in officer training had already been at boot camp. So if you think about it, it's the next level, right? So that was definitely one of the hardest military trainings I did. And then once I became an officer, I still stayed with the National Guard. They actually put me back in that unit. They moved that sergeant, by the way. They moved him.
Oh, so by the time you got back as an officer, he was already gone.
No, he was still there. He was still there. And then it was kind of like the, so yeah, it was like 3 or 4 months later, I'm coming back as an officer, and they actually put me in the same unit, which was a mistake. They're assuming that you're mature enough to not have.
And you're like, dude, I'm only 21 years old. I'm petty as hell.
Not me. I was actually 20.
Oh, but you petty as hell though at 20.
Yeah, petty, man, petty. So yeah, I was told that outside of Civil War, I'm one of the youngest officers ever to be commissioned. So it was before my 21st birthday. Commissioned.
Right, because in general, even if you went to the Army Academy, if you went to West Point, you would still be 22, 23.
Exactly. Yeah. So I tried to, after I graduated from college, I tried to get a regular job I was working at the zoo for a minute, but then like everybody was like missing a finger or calf muscle was half ate off, and I was like,
oh, so they was trying to have you out there feeding the lion?
Alligators, bro. Alligators. Dude, I'm in an alligator. First off, it ain't too many brothers that's in that kind of profession to begin with. So in my head, I'm just like, yo, this is gonna be a BET skit. Like I could just see it right now. I remember being in an alligator pit, like scrubbing like the little pool that the alligators in. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's weird because they actually don't really move. They just kind of sit there in the sun and like they almost look like dead. So I remember walking into the alligator pit. They got the pool, and I had to like pull out the plug, drain the water, and then scrub the little pool from all the algae or whatever, and then put the plug back in and add more water. And I remember walking in there with my little boots on, and alligators not moving, they all on the side. And as soon as I fell, it was like a big splash. Then like all the alligators slid in the water, bro. And I'm like, oh! And
this is my last day.
With clarity for me, I was like, it's only a matter of time if my foot get ate off or something. So yeah, that's when I decided to go active duty after that.
Oh, so so how long were you at the zoo? How long were you at the St. Louis Zoo?
Like 6 months.
Oh wow, so you was like that alligator thing was like, you know what, I really get shot at.
It was like for real. Well, I went in my head, I was like, yeah, it's not gonna be that bad. I mean, the war was going on, but at the same time, like I knew cats that didn't get deployed. So I was like, I like the Army, it's cool to shoot the little green targets all the time. I had gone to, so after I graduated, actually, they sent me to an engineer course. And while I'm in the engineer course, more training on blowing up stuff, right? We did this exercise with aviation, and we was out there for like 20 days, no shower, like hot, sucked. And we did this like big, like kind of fake war thing, blowing up stuff, whatever. Helicopters come in. And at the end, they had a little barbecue, and one of the other officers that was a pilot, I was like, hey man, where y'all been sleeping at? Like, we've been sleeping in these little tents. Where y'all been? It was like at the Clarion Suites. I was like, oh. Hold on.
They was in suites?
Yeah, man. So I was like, you know what? I'm in the wrong profession. Went to my commanding officer, and was like, hey man, I think I want to do aviation. And he got all mad. He's like, oh, you want to be a fly boy? This is what it's really at. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be near mosquitoes anymore. So I'm done. And it was a weird timing thing because a lot of like the war in Iraq was really amping up. It was even bigger than it was before. Afghanistan was really hot. And a lot of the Vietnam pilots were trying to get out of the military. Like
there were still pilots from Vietnam still in.
They were like in their 60s. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, damn, so they were barely in there.
Yeah, they were like late 50s, early 60s, still flying.
Wow.
And I mean, think about airline pilots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not uncommon, right? Yeah.
But I was thinking combat pilot though. I'm thinking like
exactly. So most of them was cool with being a pilot in the Army when you just flying the governor from here to there. Or
are you dropping off people, bringing them over like, oh, I can do that. Exactly.
But when you switch into combat, they're like deuces. So it was a huge drop in the volume of military pilots that were Vietnam pilots. Like dropped like we lost like 40% of the pilots in the Army. So they were like, if you nice on the controls and sticks, we'll try you out. So it's like they had like simulators and stuff you could do. And we played video games my whole life. So it was like super easy for me. And I signed up for flight school. I was in flight school within like a month and a half. Yeah. So
how long is the normal flight school?
Flight to get in was normally like 2-year wait list.
Oh shoot! But because of the flux,
because of the immediate gap they had, because everybody was getting deployed, like people were getting orders to go overseas, and they're like retiring. They're like, okay, we go to the next one, retiring. Like so, they were basically, there was no stop loss, so it wasn't at that point yet. But a lot of people, when they got orders to go overseas, they was like, yeah, I'm retired, I'm out. So I got in flight school super fast, which was cool. Flight school was like a year, amazing opportunity. Did really well, finished in the top 2 in my class. And then they got in my ear, and it was like, man, I can't believe how good you're doing. You'd be an outstanding maintenance test pilot. So they got all in my head, and I'm like, yeah, I am good. So next thing you know, I'm in maintenance test pilot school. And
what is a maintenance test pilot for people that may not know?
So there's 2 things. Either you test the aircraft that has gotten like a new engine, new hydraulics, new whatever. You test it out, make sure it's flyable. Or it's a scenario where an aircraft was shot down and you have to decide, are you going to recover it or blow it up in place? Those are the options. Okay. Right? So here I get this training, and then I go over to Iraq, and now my job is I'm like, wait a second. So you want me to get that thing that's already shot down, and they already know it's there, you want me to go recover that and bring it back? They're like, yeah. Exactly. I was like, dude, they got me again. Yeah, man. So that was pretty crazy year. It wasn't a ton of those, but
did you show up and you like, man, we can't do nothing, no boss. We're on our way back. This one is really down.
To be honest, there was no aircraft we had to like actually blow up.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a couple of times I was like, I can't believe you're going like that. There was a down aircraft outside of Ramadi, right? And I'm like, dude, that's a hotbed. I'm not trying to go back to Ramadi and recover an aircraft, but
so is it because you had the demolition experience already? Is that why they put you there? Because
no, just because I was a test pilot. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Just a test pilot. But for the most part, like when I was in Iraq, I flew missions. So at nighttime we drop off people that were located here and put them there. There were dignitaries that came in town, like ambassadors. Man, I flew so many ambassadors. It wasn't like I got their autograph. Yeah. You fly ambassadors, they do a little, hey, I was in Iraq, or a senator or something. They stayed for like 30 minutes and then went back home, but they got a little photo op. So did a bunch of those, but then I had actual combat missions too.
So you was Black Hawk Down out there.
Yeah, I had a total of 110 combat missions, which was crazy.
Like how was mentally that for you being over there, seeing all that going on there? Like, are you so separate because you're up high
in the air? So to be honest, like the first 3 months, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was hot, but all I did was fly little coolers. It was like a cooler of blood or plasma. I flew from this hospital to that hospital. So it didn't really feel like I was in danger. And then March 10th, 2006, that was like the first, my house got blown up by a rocket. And I just left. That's when it started clicking in. And after you got about 3 months in country, you start actually doing actual flight missions where they actually shooting at you. So it started to get more intense, the more I went in and the longer I stayed there. And I think I was able to rationalize most of it. The parts that I did not process very well was when kids were involved. Like that part bothered me because I was in my head, I'm like, dudes shooting at each other, it's war, right?
Yeah.
You can rationalize it, but whenever kids were involved in some kind of way, there was one kid that I could swore he was giving us information. He was we called him General Rayad. I don't know his real name. We called him General Rayad. I think it was Rayad was his name, but we called him General Rayad. And we would take our candy, throw it over the fence, give it to him. And the little kids would be telling us stuff, and it's in Arabic, so I have no idea what they're telling them. But he was always pointing at, this area, and bomb, boom, like doing one of those things. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you're trying to tell us they'll be shooting from that spot over there to bombing us here.
Yeah.
Like one day we went out there, the kids weren't there, and they had hung the kid.
Wow.
We heard it was because the kid had been getting up intel on the insurgents that were in a village that was nearby. So like stuff like that bothered me the most.
So that it was all the kids, or just that one kid, or was it like a group of kids?
It was just one kid. Yeah. So my assumption is that other kids was like, no, it's him, and they were trying to make an example of him or something. So yeah, hey, so that's the part about war that I was not able to process very well. So I knew after that incident, I was only going to be doing one tour, and I was going to explore getting out and doing a different profession. So once I finished that tour, so I was over there close to 12 months, total time away from family about 18, but actually in Iraq about 12 months. And once I got back, I was like, man, I need to try something different. And I tried to get a job at the Pentagon. And told me I was too young. And I was like, yes, that's age discrimination. Like, we're the government. Don't try that.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah, like whatever. It was like for an engineer aviation liaison. And then I was kind of frustrated about it. They were sending me to Guatemala to do a humanitarian mission. And I came to St. Louis. I think I saw you that trip too.
Yeah.
But I drove past Anheuser-Busch, and they had a big thing up under the Budweiser sign that says military recruitment event. And I was like, man, I should put in an application there. I ain't changed nothing on my resume. It looked like a military resume. I just literally pushed send, and as luck would have it, they gave me a shout, and then kind of rest is history. But they gave me
So did you ever go to Guatemala?
Yeah, still went to Guatemala. The AB actually held the position open until I finished the deployment.
Wow. Okay, I was like, you did go to Guatemala. I was like, I thought you left. I thought you left. That's what it was like. I was like,
yeah, they basically treated it just like, like we do recruitment. You offer a student a job in October, even though they don't graduate till May. It was basically kind of the same kind of deal. Yeah. So you
see the AB thing, man, I'm gonna do that. It was literally your life has been a comedy. So you just literally just saw it was like, I'm just gonna apply. It wasn't anything that really like pulled you of like that's the thing.
I knew someone that worked there. So you remember Diana Hill, like she worked there and she was talking about it. I knew a couple other people that worked there. So I heard about, like, hey, they're a pretty good company. And then in general, if you live in St. Louis, that's a solid company. I mean, they got Clydesdales running around the stadium and all kind of every
and all the people that don't know those, the African American, the African Kings calendars and all that. That's all. Like we used to get those early before all y'all even. We said every black barbershop had them.
Yeah, so I knew it was a good.
Y'all need to bring that back too, though, John. Y'all need to bring that back.
That's actually a good idea. If we do it, I'll
no, I'm dead. I got like y'all need to bring that back, man. I need to bring the African Kings. And
you do a Blood Select man too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But so y'all in there, so you get in and you're like, so where did they put you at? You just put in a random resume as a military? What do you do at AB?
Helicopter, exactly.
You're a helicopter pilot.
Right.
Do you need me to fly beer to, is that what you're thinking? Or like, what are you thinking that they're even?
So I applied to the lowest manager position they had at the company, which was like, they called it a group manager. So you just manage a group of people, right? And so on my resume, it says cellular molecular biology. So like, maybe brewing. And I get in that interview, they talking about fermentation science and all that. I'm like,
nope.
I was like, I kind of think y'all basically like kind of boil the stuff, and then you add some yeast to it, and then whatever. But I just remember that from a tour that I did when I was like 12. Everybody went to Anheuser-Busch, it was like for a field trip or something. So I really didn't know that area. And then they took me over to the production area, and then that's where all the machines are that put beer in a bottle, beer in a can, beer in a keg. And that area was pretty easy for me to visualize. So as they're kind of talking me through it, because I was a helicopter pilot, I had to know like how a machine runs. I knew about drivetrains. I knew about timing. I knew about metering. So I was actually able to use similar lingo that they knew about. And they were like, oh, you could do production. And like, how many people have you managed? I was like, well, the unit I'm in charge of right now is about 250. They're like, oh. I'm like, how many would I manage here? They're about like 8. I was like, oh yeah, we're good. So they actually brought me into to the production environment where they make the beer. And I kind of took the approach of like, I'm gonna run the group like I ran the military. And in the military, it wasn't like I'm the boss, you listen to me. It was very much like, hey, we work on a team together. Like in a helicopter, just because I'm the guy flying, if the guy in the back says, hey, sir, I hear something kind of weird sounding back here. It sounds like something coming loose. You're not gonna be like, I'm the man in charge. Like, sit back there, talk when I tell you. You're gonna land the helicopter because you're about to crash. You know what I'm saying? So I created that ecosystem where, hey man, what do you think we need to do to get more production out? I'm like, man, I told the last man, he listened to me. I'm like, I'm a new one, so let's try me, And so we ended up breaking every single production record in bottles. So I was in bottles first, broke every single production record. And it was always on my team, right? So then they moved me to another area, like, fluke. Moved me to another area, broke every single production record. Moved me to a different department, broke every single production record. So I started making a name for myself of like process optimization is kind of the wheelhouse, and then fixing things is kind of the other wheelhouse. So I ended up moving up the ranks in operations and maintenance. They shipped me out to Colorado. So I ran our operation out there. You came out and visited me.
Yeah, we kicked it, man.
Yeah, ran the operation out.
Shout out to Roy Robinson. The front door is ajar.
oh yeah, dude. Oh, front door open. Yeah.
No. 5 minutes later, front door closed.
yeah, that was pretty funny. We'll leave that one for a beer discussion.
Yeah, no, that's all good.
So I ran the operation out there, and then they had like people from like China, Belgium, like all come out to Fort Collins. Like, man, how? Because we literally were rated the #1 operation in the globe. So 155 breweries.
Why is it in Fort Collins though? Like, I'm interested in why the Anheuser-Busch decided.
So I was by the time I moved out to Fort Collins, I had the autonomy to kind of do things like I wanted to. So I could hire my own team. I could, decide what types of machines I wanted. I got to set my own budget. Like everything was all like, there was no boss, so to speak, that I had to report to. I was accountable for operations, and I kind of created the group like I wanted to. We had, 4 can lines, 4 bottle lines, and a keg line. I think that was what it was. But anyway, so I was able to like move production schedules. So people were like, you're getting more beer out in the same amount of 24 hours than every other plant in the world. So what are you doing different? Yeah. A lot of it was like, just process optimization of schedules. My maintenance routines were a little bit different. It was kind of modeled off of here's how we do it in the military. And then from a development standpoint, my style, I tell everybody everything. No matter if it's real estate, no matter if it's whatever, but I believe in you give people information, and then people will be a multiplier for you versus you having all the knowledge and everybody give you credit, but your team doesn't succeed as well either. But that was kind of my swagger, and that's why people came out and visited. And because of that, they ended up moving me back to zone. So I led our strategy. Makes sense, right? So I led the strategy for all the breweries and can plants in North America, so Canada and the US. And then shifted to learning and development. Like, man, you're good at this. They shifted me to learning and development. Then I took on a role in Canada as the in charge of all of HR for all the breweries and plants up there. And then just moved me back to the US again. Now in charge of diversity and inclusion. Basically, every company after George Floyd has to have diversity.
Yeah. We gonna go back a little bit before we go there. So, what do you attribute like your success to be able to even matriculate through those? What was like your key thing of like, yo, I did this, and this, or I understood this, or I opened myself to this to be able to get through these different phases?
Yeah, so for me, it was pretty clear. Like, here are the defined measurables that you're measured against. You know, like here's a key performance indicator that you have to deliver by the end of the year. So I always knew what those were. I think a lot of times people do all these projects and everything, and maybe they support those top things you're supposed to do, but people get distracted really easy. So for me, my approach is, what are my key deliverables that I'm accountable for this entire year? That's the first thing I always look at. Next, I always look at what's the engagement of my team. So if they're frustrated or they're not happy or they're not whatever, they're not going to work as hard to deliver those particular results. And then building the right team is probably the next most important thing. So I usually try to get people that are smarter than me. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I think like some people have an ego where they say, I'm going to hire people that are similar to me, or, you know, we got kind of the same swagger. I actually use a different approach. My approach is always to select people that are different than me, or people that have a strength in a different area than I do. So they're going to tell me when I have a blind spot. So if my mind is focused on, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z, I'm ready to go. If I get a whole bunch of Darryls and Roys and Teddies and, you know, like, yeah. But I don't have somebody on the side in my ear like, hey, did y'all think about this though? We might get jacked up if we do this. If you don't have that type of person on your team, you're not going to succeed. So I got really good at building.
Are you sure fruit punch beer is going to work, John?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what though? Like Strawberritas was invented because we had a Black person on the team. It's like, yo, when we
I already surmised that the Wee's the one that came up with that. Like, yo, y'all better get some flavors. I guarantee you'll pop.
It actually was people of color. Like, that's like I think the woman that was in the role at the time, she was of Indian descent, and a lot of her friends were Black, and that's how she was like, whenever I go to barbecues and hang with them, they always taking something from a red Solo cup and mixing it with some stuff. I really think we need to get away from regular lagers and try something different. So yeah, man, there's a big beauty in diversity.
So it's interesting, man. It's so crazy that you're in this position. I know you remember. I don't remember when I was in DC and we had an incident going on with our high school, like a racially charged incident. And everybody put the bat signal out, so everybody's all like, what's going on? And I remember me and you talked. I remember where I was walking down M Street, walking to my conference, and we were talking. You were saying like, yo, they're pulling me in on these different other things. And this is May of 2019. And you were like, they're pulling me in this thing. And I won't go into the incident you was telling me about, but you were like, they're pulling me on these different initiatives and things that's going on. I don't know. You was like, man, I don't know. They bring me in a lot of extra little work though on these different things. He's like, but I know I need to be there. But it's like, damn, like, I do gotta be making sure these bottles get out too. But I need to be over here too. Was that the beginning of it? I mean, when we had that conversation, was that the beginning of it? Or
yeah. So at that time, I was over HR in Canada for supply and logistics, and it was a U.S. kind of, stuff was going on, and I believe that the company saw me as a trusted advisor in the Black community that was also a partner. So I'd already made partner in the company years and years ago. Like I made partner at AB in like 6 years. So I was a trusted partner that they could come to and say like, hey, I got to ask you a question and it's between us, right? Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What about this initiative? So I think that because I was a trusted advisor, I was starting to get pulled into those things that were outside of my scope of responsibility. And to be honest, I do think that because they saw how to navigate that situation, they began to feel that, I think they already knew it was important to have a role, but then they were also apprehensive about the who. Like, do you get a person that's purely an activist and doesn't understand the business side? Or do you get a person that's, really good at the business side, but it's kind of tone deaf on how is it going to land with the communities? So it was really hard to find a person that had both. So I think it was kind of a little bit of luck, that incidents happened that I got pulled in. But then as I started doing particular being basically a consultant on particular issues, I think it kind of spoke the role into existence, and then, you know, the rest is history.
So with that, did you see that like, okay, this is something that we need, or were you like, oh, y'all really want me to do this? like
Yeah. So I actually was like, man, the person y'all put in this role really needs to do this. They need to do this. I'm like actually giving action items for whoever this is.
So it was similar to Mr. Clark when he said he was with when they had that group before they made a diversity director, and like, yeah, the person need to do this. Like, no, you gonna do it.
Exactly. I was, man. So I'm telling them like all the qualities you need to have. Someone needs to know this and need to know that. They're like, yeah, writing it down. I was like, and Shipp, it's you. So I actually did not accept the role in the very beginning. Like there was probably like a 3-week delay on me accepting the role. And part of it was, one, I wanted to understand what I was getting myself into. And you got to imagine like, there's not a lot of senior diverse talent in the organization. I have a very favorable impression inside the company. And right now this is, you basically, in this space, someone's not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just the nature of the space. So part of me was a little reluctant, not because I didn't think it was a good cause, but I also was, you know, looking at my career, done a lot of great things, and I didn't want to, you know, tarnish their reputation. But then the other side of me was like, man, I'm not really, you know, no, I mean, I'm not just like at the table, but I'm the head speaker at the table.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I ended up deciding to take it. I gave them a couple of parameters of here's the things that are non-negotiables for me. If you all don't think that you all want me to do this in the role, then maybe you need somebody else. So I gave them the non-negotiables and they said yes. So I was like, dang, I really can't get out of it.
You was throwing out stuff, hopefully they say no, and I'd be like, I'm just gonna go back to where I was at.
Yeah, so man, but to be honest, it's been great, man. I think we've got to make some positive change on things. It's tough because, again, you know, you always got people that don't understand the journey, and they'll kind of look at it like, man, it's reversing meritocracy. Other people saying meritocracy doesn't work, meritocracy is dead. It's a myth anyway. So you got all these different terminologies and viewpoints and everything, and I'm like, man, I can't even say diversity right. You telling me, nah, you can't have diversity, you have inclusion. Oh, you can't have equity unless you have inclusion. Anyway, so yeah, it feels almost like an impossible role sometimes, but I always ground myself to, as long as making progress, you know, you really can't be mad. You know, that's the way I view, you know, my life, my job. That's the way I view, you know, my real estate investments. Like everything I've done, I've always said, as long as I'm progressing forward, how can you really be upset, you know, in progress?
So what is the thing this is a 2-part question, but what is the 2 things you've learned? I mean, what have you learned about working in this field, and what is being in this position challenged you with as well? So basically, what have you learned from doing this position, and what has been the challenge? Like, yo, like, okay, I didn't even know that was a challenge.
Yeah, so I think anyone that's of a diverse background probably knows the trials and tribulations within that community. So I felt very comfortable understanding what are the challenges of a Black man and be able to talk about that authentically, you know, in an organization. So I have strategies geared towards people that are Black, right? My wife is Hispanic and also an executive in a company. Like, so I know, here are all the things.
I got this other side too. So I got
this other side, right? Like she always talks about like, you know, broken ladder or broken rung. Like I know there's a way to move up, but either the ladder's either broken or there's a rung on the ladder that's broken. And so I had that in my head as here's some things I need to think about for women and for people that are Hispanic. But then you start to get into other spaces. Like I don't know a lot about you know, people with disabilities. So how do you make that equitable? I don't know a lot about people that are in the LGBTQI community. You know, so how do you talk about that authentically, and how do we need to support as a company for that? So I found myself, same thing with Asian. I don't have a ton of Asian friends, so I don't know a lot about their story, their trial, their tribulations, the things that are important to them, what are the moments that matter that we need to focus on. So That's probably the hardest part is learning all of those different community issues, and then figuring out what's a strategy that either my role or the company can support on. And the thing that I probably did not expect is I did not expect that the toughest critics of everything they were trying to do were actually people that are underrepresented. So like sometimes the toughest critics of everything that we're trying to move forward, like it's progress. The toughest critics are people that are Black. Like this is the first time ever we recognized Juneteenth as a holiday in our company. And then the backlash from that was like, man, you took too long. You know, it should have been done years ago, or we just did it because of Biden, or, you know, whatever. So that's the thing I probably didn't anticipate, that I've had to kind of work through. But
so I have
everybody that's important has to deal with tough stuff.
This is a question from me and something I need from you. I need those Biggie, those new Biggie cans or whatever y'all have. I need one of those. The Biggie.
Yeah, man.
Now, how do I get one? I'll pay for it. I ain't got no problem.
Everything that's like a promotion is hard to get, man. We trying to make every dollar off of it. Yeah, I try to get you.
I will pay for it. I just need to know where I do. I gotta go out to Brooklyn to go get the Biggie.
Yeah, it's usually by POC or.
So literally, so you can't just even make a call like, yo, I need a Biggie pack.
Yeah, I mean, I have to get it from Newark.
Wow. So you have to go call. You have
like they didn't make like a Nelly can and sell it in California. Gotcha. Nelly cans were just for St. Louis, you know. So
you'd have to call the Newark plant like, yo, I'm gonna put some on y'all books. I want to buy 2 cases of the Biggie cans.
Well, I wouldn't pay for nothing in my life.
I mean, I wasn't trying to say I was trying to be diplomatic about it, like, you know, I'm putting something on your books. It's not like going to jail or something. I'll put something on your books. Like,
right.
I don't know how to process this, bro. I'm just saying. But so it's not like you could just be like, oh man, yeah, the Biggie can. I'm just gonna go around the back and go get it. They're producing the Biggie can straight out the Newark
in that area. Yeah. So a lot of stuff is very regional. Because we want to connect with consumers in that area, right? So, not that Biggie's a bad example because Biggie's big everywhere.
Yeah.
But you know, you want to connect with consumers in that area. As much as we think Nelly is amazing, not every single in Montana. Like, we wouldn't be able to sell a can in Montana, right? They probably like,
he might sell in Montana though. Like, he has these random
spots.
He'll sell out of Montana for some weird reason. Let's say he has a weird demographic setup. If you like research his like demos, you'd be like, so he's big in Idaho and sold out like 2 shows of like millions of people.
That's true. Yeah.
You just don't know that. You never know. I mean, the numbers are everything with it. So what do you say is the thing that got you the most in overall with your career? Not necessarily how you matriculated through AB, but how you matriculated from being a dude on the north side of 6 Hour all the way to being the head of diversity and inclusion.
You know, to be honest, I think I got to a point. My grandfather used to always say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I swear to God, I thought he invented it, and then like it's everywhere. Like,
but then you sound like the real person that
I saw a real quote. I'm like in college. I'm like, wait a second, that's the same thing. So he used to always say that when I was younger, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think about like man, I went to a different school that was not with all my friends. I had to figure out a way to get comfortable doing that. I did a different profession than the profession that I had my degree in, right? Helicopter pilot versus being a cellular molecular biologist, right? In a production environment versus a military environment. I think even outside of the work stuff, I mean, you know, I do real estate.
Yeah.
And, I was super nervous about starting to buy properties and things like that. And if I look at those, what's the root thing that I changed in myself is I allow myself to say, everything's not going to be smooth. Everything's not going to be like easy. You just got to get comfortable being in a space where you feel a little uneasy. And what I found is that feeling of uneasiness has typically given me the best reward, you know, and you know, I remember my first real estate deal. I saved up money for 4 years to buy that fraternity house.
Yeah.
But I remember signing a paper, and it only takes a second for the wire to go through, right? Wire goes through, boom.
I did 4 years for this, but it's a second for the money to be gone.
And I literally, you know, go in on my phone, look at my account, and it was gone that fast. Like, it was like pending. And I remember that just being I was just so nervous about it. Not that I would suggest that you don't, you know, don't focus on ensuring that you mitigate risk. I'm not saying that, but I got to a point where I've learned to be okay with having little butterflies in the stomach, and that real estate deal ended up turning into, you know, great money. I actually just sold it last year. I bought, you know, beach houses. You and I have been talking about, like, yo, I got this idea. I just want to buy like all these beach condos, and then we can all be neighbors and raise the prices. I remember having that conversation with all y'all. And y'all was like, man, Shipp, I don't know. And I was like, man, I'm just going to do it, right? I think a lot of it just is being comfortable being uncomfortable. Super cliche, but that's probably the one thing that is a point of differentiation between myself and, I think, some other people that frankly are smarter than me, have better skills, better whatever. It's I was comfortable being uncomfortable. I tried.
So is that the biggest advice you'll give to somebody like, yo, like, man, he from where I'm from off of Marcus and you know, Bessie. Like, is that what you would give them? Like, yo, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, what would you tell them, the person that grew up where we came from? What would you tell them, you know, like to get out of where they are?
It'd probably be two things. Then I would probably do that. You know, Be okay with being uncomfortable. Do things out of your comfort zone. But probably the other one is figuring out your narrative. I actually just did a thing with the National Urban League not too long ago, where, you know, we're talking about Black professionals. How can you you know, basically improve your brand, your personal brand. And one of the things I talked about was selling a story. And I think a lot of times, you know, think about interviews you're going into, or thinking about, like, hey, I want to start this new business, or I got a new project, a new whatever. You're trying to sell something to stakeholders. And I think a lot of people, especially people where we came from, always have this feeling of, hey, our story isn't good enough, or we don't have the pedigree to do the same thing that other people can. And if we were actually to take the therapeutic pause and look at our own story, we have the stories of resilience. We have the stories of being bold. We have the stories of, dreaming big and developing people, and, all those things. So I think it's probably one of those deals that people are not spending enough time doing. And that'd probably be my other piece of advice. Take some time for yourself, look at all your accomplishments, write them down, and create a narrative around, next time someone says, why should we try your project? Or why should we, hire you for this position? You've got a library in your head of all these examples of things that are authentic stories from you, that when you tell the story, they're gonna be like, I don't know why we didn't think about you a long time ago. So that's probably the other piece of advice.
All right, so now it's time for our game part, John.
All right, man.
This is that. You got two choices, and I catered these for John strictly. I catered these for John. So I cater for every guest. I cater them around their personality and who they are. So first up, Nas or Jay-Z?
Jay-Z.
Of course you would say. I knew you. I was trying to throw you a softball first. I knew you would say Jay-Z. All right, next up, Fresh Prince or Martin?
Fresh Prince.
Of course you would say Fresh Prince. All right, this was going to be an interesting one. So, would you rather have $1 million straight up, or $50,000 a year for the rest of your life? Like I cut you a check for $1 million right now, or I'll say, like, yo, I'll give you 50 grand a year the rest of your life.
$1 million now.
Because you want to be able to get that OPM going, and you can go and flip that.
I know
That 50 grand ain't doing nothing for you. Just sitting there.
I know doing $1 million.
Because you might die tomorrow. So like I might die tomorrow. And then now you ain't gonna pay me nothing. Or you might try to kill me with the other amount of money that you.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. I feel like I know what to do with $1 million.
Yeah. Sorry. Next up, what is the best? This is an actual singular question. What is the best beer you've had from Anheuser-Busch? Were you like
it's a beer called Brahma. It's only sold in the South American zone, but it's kind of got like more of a chocolate note. So it's a dark beer, chocolate note, a lot more sweet than the typical beer. But I would definitely say Brahma.
All right.
For sure. If you can imagine like a chocolate stout, but actually
a
little more sweet. Yeah, it's in that family.
All right. If you didn't go to SLU, what other MCC school would you have went to? If you only could choose between the other four.
Dang. Man, I know it. So I got a pride thing. Like I feel like DeSmet just would be sacrilegious.
Yep.
I feel like CBC.
That's off the table.
Like, this off the table, right? Yep. So I feel like
down to Vianney and Chaminade, just like I figured you.
Yeah, it had to be Chaminade. What'd you pick?
I was gonna say Chaminade too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Chaminade, like, because already two of them are off the top.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Yeah.
So I was like, Chaminade don't seem that bad. It's down the street from me, so it's like not that bad. So next up, this is a triple threat match. All right, so you got three choices: Boys in the Hood, New Jack City, or Menace to Society.
Boys in the Hood.
Okay, you said that pretty quickly. I thought you would need a little bit more time with that one. Mm-hmm. All right, since we talked about Biggie or Tupac?
Tupac.
Okay, I'm surprised you said Tupac. I thought you would be on a Biggie route.
No.
All right.
You know what I think it is? I feel like Tupac had a couple more club bangers and therapeutic music. Like I actually got a meditation rap thing, like I listen to, and I feel like I got more Tupac songs than I do Biggie songs.
So if you had to take a vacation blindly, would you go to somewhere in Central America, Europe, or Asia?
Central America.
Why Central America?
So interesting enough, when I was in Central America, the culture and the way that people are is very similar to the way Black folks are. Like it's a big community, everybody shares. Like people don't have much, but they know how to have a good time. Like it's just more the vibe where they are people, just a little shorter. So
shout out to Shine. Shine's from Central America. I mean, that's basically Shine. So last one, what would you let me package it right with what I'm saying here. So if you had to pick one other place to be besides the US to live in perpetuity, but it's not a westernized country, where would it be?
City or country?
Country.
South Africa.
Ooh, I want you to jump in this. I know you've been to South, so talk about you, because this fool right here, y'all, went to South Africa, took his wife, right? You see the camera. Took his wife to South Africa. Did she know that you were going to be going hunting and stuff, and then her trip was really?
So
you ain't spring her up on it, and then you just got all the bags. Like, oh no, I'm just doing.
I mean, going to the airport with like a bow and arrow, you kind of give it away.
No, but cats be like act like they not going to golf when they go out of town with their wife or something. Like, no, this is a little extra. I'm just gonna do it one day, but the whole trip was a golfing trip for them on the.
Nah, it wasn't one of those. We playing this one. We playing that one.
So let's talk about the experience of South Africa, especially hunting in South Africa, yo.
Yeah. So, man, I'm not trying to get like super deep on it, but this is one of those. This is a mood. It was super weird to me that as soon as so I went to Johannesburg, that's where we landed. Went to Johannesburg, and like immediately getting off the plane, you had like security and all this other kind of stuff. But as I'm like walking down the corridor, the Johannesburg airport is gigantic. It's like, Washington Dulles. It's like, it's big, right? And I'm like looking, I'm like, dang, that dude look like Darryl. Looking over here, like, dang, that dude look like my cousin. It's super weird how like you look around and you instantly like feel that you're, I don't know these people, right? But you just like kind of felt like you just knew people. You know what I mean? So that was a weird like kind of sensation. I was getting in my head and I was like, let's keep going, right? And then I remember getting in a car and we were we had to go through like some cities, some smaller cities before we get out into the actual, safari land, whatever you want to call it. And as we're going through a lot of the neighborhoods, you saw neighborhoods that were similar to where we grew up. Smaller homes, but then everybody is like on the porch. Like everybody on the porch, music playing, somebody next to a grill, got a freaking towel around your neck. You got the table with like the old heads. You got
they playing dominoes too over there. They playing
dominoes, like literally playing dominoes. So again, you got this image in your head of like, man, this seems very familiar. But I think the thing that touched me the most was, so when I got there, there's not a lot of Black Western hunters, period. So when I got there, I got a different level of like you could tell like everybody was proud of me, because it's an expensive trip, right? But when I got there, you could tell like the Black people that were so usually we're paired up with a professional hunter, which is usually like a Dutch guy, like these big German cats with like muscles on their neck, like they're just huge. They like lift up wildebeest all day. And then you have this, indigenous Black person, this very, traditional, skinny, more the Zulu style because they're in South Africa, so much more skinny. But they wearing like penny loafers, right? With like a hunting shirt on, right? But they ain't got no other shoes, so they got penny loafers. But they literally,
and so they're trying to look professional a little bit with the penny loafers too, even though they should be wearing some.
To be honest, I think that's the only shoes they got.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking of like they didn't have enough shoes to be able to have different types, so they just wanted to look.
I'm pretty sure that's the only shoes they had, and they only had few little pants or whatever. And we would go out hunting and everything, and they know they craft. Like you see the guy who's like, they talking and doing whatever, but I felt like they always were trying to educate me on like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is the things. And I felt like that was a very different experience than what other people were talking about. The trackers just tracked with other people. But with me, I felt like they were trying to teach me. And there's this connection of like, I think that they really trying to like impart on me, here's where my roots were, And I remember a moment where we had got an animal and, grabbed a beer, they were cutting the animal, and we would actually take the prime cuts from the animal and they barbecue it that night. And I saw them taking the rest of the animal and they were cutting it in these like 2-inch by 2-inch cubes. And I was like, that's weird. And I was like, hey, you mind me asking like why y'all cut it up? And they said, today I went out and I got something with you, but tomorrow maybe we don't get something, but the other person does. He's like, in our culture, everybody eats. So we cut it into 1-inch by 1-inch by 1-inch or 2-inch by 2-inch cubes, so that everyone gets the same, size meat, and then no one has a better cut. So they would take what was considered the ribeye and it'd be mixed with, like the backstrap, or mixed with the ham, or mixed with whatever. It literally made everything into cubes and they mixed it up. Then everybody had a wooden bowl and they shared the bowl with each other. So everybody in the village went back and went to eat. So you get in this moment, man, of like I'm doing all right financially. I'm in a pretty good spot there. But like when you really think about what's important to you, it's really about bringing other people up. Right? It's really about making sure everybody else eat. And I think that's been the shift that I've experienced, because of COVID. I think is I got out of the mindset of, hey, get the next promotion, get the next job, keep moving up. And I've shifted everything I've been doing more to, sending the elevator back down to everybody else and then bringing them back up. And that moment in Africa was one of those moments for me where I got clarity on this is how the species survive. This is how our people survive. It wasn't by being a singled out person that's excelling that can say, "Ooh, I got a yacht." It's trying to make sure everybody got a yacht. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was a really, really cool experience. I've been twice now. I feel like I'm due for a reset, to go back again and get regrounded, to those principles. But amazing experience. I actually took off my boots when I left there, and I gave the guy my boots. And the second time I went, I took a bunch of my military uniform, bunch of boots, and actually donated to all the African trackers there.
Oh, that is dope. They need it. I'm used to they in penny loafers and they tracking with no boots on. And you out there, I know how you roll.
And I got the most high-tech gear, everything. Night vision
you
goggles.
You got laser goggles on. You can't even see nobody.
Had everything, right?
And so is your wife with you while you doing all this? And like you got the laser goggles and you had the laser goggles for her too? Or you like,
so I was actually but so the goggles were for, it's called a serval. But they had like these things called serval, which is like a cat, and then they had leopards. So we were only hunting in hyenas. So we only used it for like those animals. I actually didn't get any, but I was out there during the nighttime.
You had hyena meat?
No, I wasn't gonna eat it. I just want a hyena. Just so y'all can be like, yo, shit, we got a hyena, bro.
You caught the people that killed Mustafa.
Yeah, exactly. This is a payback. But no, I was we were actually supposed to hunt them, and then we're inside this ground blind, man. I'm hearing like, oh, I'm like, hey man, we good. I don't need this no more. So I was actually out. Yeah, I actually went out to go hunt them.
Were the hyenas tracking y'all? You said basically.
Well, there's no fences, bro. Like you just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
you're in the middle of nowhere. And like when the lights, when the sun go down, street lights, like it's dark, like dark. And the only light you got is like your little flashlight. And that didn't feel like no protection at all. And I'm sitting there like listening literally to like lions in the distance. You're hearing like, elephants. And man, I was cool during the day. I felt like because we were close to a vehicle and driving around doing all that stuff. I felt like I was cool there. But in the nighttime, man, I was like, nah, man, y'all gotta take me back.
So I ain't gonna use these night vision goggles. I don't even need them.
Man, so I bought all this high-tech gear for the night vision stuff, but when I got out there, I was too scared, man. I was like, nah, I'm good on that. So I actually didn't even hunt during the night, but that was a plan. But we was like, So me and the wife, I actually got chased by an ostrich at night because like, we were hunting warthogs and literally I was like, man, I gotta take a leak real quick. So I like went around the other side and I'm looking at distance. I'm like, man, it's a big old warthog over there. And it's like, and it's running towards me because it's like really light. I can't really see. And I'm like, man, it's a tall. I'm like, man, it's an ostrich. Dude, I was like, yo, it's an ostrich running at me. And they was like, man, ostrich ain't gonna run at you. I'm like, man, it's an ostrich. I jumped in the back of the Jeep. And the guy that was like, this African dude, he was like, it is an ostrich. It's an ostrich. And like, he like literally take off. And I was like, I've been telling y'all that. It's an ostrich.
So like the ostrich must have been rolling out for somebody else.
Well, no, I think we were in his territory. So he was like, get out of here,
Oh, okay. He was trying to
he like actually hung with the Jeep for a hot second, for about like 5-6 seconds. He was like hanging with the Jeep. He was like right behind the Jeep, like trying to peck it. And then the next day was like, yo, let's go hunt ostrich.
I need get back.
Voila.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, John, man, thank you for doing this, bro. Like, I super appreciate this, man. I super appreciate this, man. Where can people hit you up if they want a job or something, or they just reach out to you?
Yeah, man. You know what? LinkedIn is probably the best, form of contact. And like I said, I'm kind of in this headspace now where everything I'm doing is all about focusing on helping other people. So people want help on career stuff, I'm happy to do that. You want me to give you some advice about, hey, how can I present this project differently? Or, hey, they want to list some idea, or you want to talk real estate, anything like that. LinkedIn, hit me up. Ain't no money involved. I just really want to help out people and send the elevator back down.
Well, man, John, thank you once again, man. Dude, this is super dope, man. I appreciate you coming on, dude. Like, this is
all right, man. You need to go to the lake house.
Yeah, no. Wasn't hold on.